Good morning, and thank you all for being here. I'm glad you can join us because there is a lot in the air right now, and we have a lot to talk about. First, I'll start on a high note with our sports teams and the WNBA champions, the New York Liberty. Last weekend, they won their first title and got their well-deserved parade up the Canyon of Heroes. And of course, Yankees are in the World Series, back home for Game 3 tonight. Also, you might have noticed there's a presidential election going on. We are 8 days out, and if the pollsters are right, our nation is divided right down the middle, with each group, for the most part, feeling the other has both lost touch and lost its mind. In local politics at City Hall, these have been turbulent days. I won't mince words. From the outside, it looks tough. This is a hard city to run in the best of times, and these are not the best of times. Our ABNY community wants our leaders to have vision. We want them to do big, ambitious things. At the same time, maybe even more important, we want the greatest city in the world to run well. I know a good number of people in this room breathed a sigh of relief when we learned that Maria Torres-Springer wasn't just staying on, but had been tapped by Mayor Adams to be the first deputy mayor. Her career in public service has been stellar. Promoting her to this position in this moment was a strong decision by the mayor, and it's something that gives us confidence that strong public servants are continuing to work for this administration. We look forward to hearing from the first deputy mayor today about how she is leading in this time. Before I go further, I want to mention the electeds who are here today and the public servants. First, our friend, as I mentioned, Senator Brad Hoylman-Siegel. Council members Eric Bottcher and Carlina Rivera. And MTA Chair and CEO, Jano Lieber. Hey, Jano, thank you all. At ABNY, we've always seen ourselves as boosters for this city. We want our mayors and their teams to succeed. Strength and resolve are in our DNA, and we have a special appreciation for public servants who see a fire and run straight into it. Maria is the real deal. Before this latest stint at City Hall, we knew her well as a board member of the ABNY Foundation, as well as through her work at the Highline and on the board of and with our friend Darren Walker with the Ford Foundation. Her record in government is impressive. In addition to serving as deputy mayor, she has run 3 city agencies. Trust me, when Mike Bloomberg, Bill de Blasio, and Eric Adams all look at the same person and say, give her the ball, you know she has the goods. Maria's vision is expansive and her approach is inclusive. She recognizes New York City's private sector, our businesses, our institutions, and our not-for-profits as true partners with government. Often, she has been asked to get things done, and she has. Under her, the city has had more newly financed affordable apartments last year than any year before, 20,000 NYCHA apartments rehabbed or in process of being rehabbed, and the City of Yes, the mayor's ambitious strategy to confront the housing crisis just weeks away from its decisive vote in the City Council. Today, we'll be hearing about the final push to get City of Yes across the finish line and how Maria is approaching her new leadership role in the administration. Maria, thank you. Thank you for your public service. Thank you for doubling down in this moment. When things are on the line, there is no one else we want more at the front of the line. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm ABNY welcome to our first deputy mayor.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Stephen and ABNY, for inviting me here today, and really for the tremendous partnership and support over the years. I want to thank all of you for being here this morning so that I can share with you a few things that I'm just so excited about. The first is the mission that Mayor Adams has charged me with executing in this role as first deputy mayor. The second is how our administration is working every day to not just execute the basic functions of government, but also advance bold, undaunted solutions to the most pressing challenges facing our city. And third, and importantly, what we can do collectively in this room to build a stronger and a better New York. But first, let's address the elephant in the room. I think we can all agree that we are living through an unprecedented time in New York's history. Who could have ever imagined that this could happen to our great city? And by that, of course, I mean that the Yankees are down 0-2 in the World Series to the godforsaken LA Dodgers. It's a real travesty. It's a real travesty, but we'll turn it around. We're going to turn it around tonight. See what I did there? Okay. But in all seriousness, all of us in public and civic life understand the weight of this moment. I myself feel its seriousness, but I also still feel the same thing that I felt the first day that I started in government. And the oath that I took that first day, it's the same oath that has guided my nearly 2 years of government service, 2 decades, my 2.5 years as Deputy Mayor for Housing, Economic Development, and Workforce, and now as the first Deputy Mayor. It's an oath built on a deep and abiding commitment to serve the people of this city. The people of the city who expect government to do everything that it can to keep people safe, to rebuild the economy, and to prepare us for the future. And the people of the city who today, like every day, expect us to come to work and serve to the best of our ability. And that's exactly what the mayor asked me to do when he appointed me into the position, to recommit to the mission and move full speed ahead to deliver the services that New Yorkers need and that they deserve. Now, I've always been an ardent believer in our city's boundless capacity for reinvention. I saw this firsthand, the work of reinvention after 9/11, the work of reinvention after the 2008 Great Recession, the work of reinvention after Superstorm Sandy, and then during this administration, the work of reinvention through the pandemic and the asylum seeker humanitarian response. It comes from the core belief that I think everyone in this room shares, that no matter what we face, New York finds its way through a crisis and forward as a city. And it's with this spirit that the mayor has asked us to serve. He has tasked us to deliver for New Yorkers who governments had left behind. And we are constantly figuring out how to do that better. Together with one of the most dedicated public servants I know, Chief of Staff Camille Joseph Varlick, for instance, we're doing a full review of all of the programs, the processes, and personnel at City Hall and across agencies, so we are sure that government can deliver services that move like clockwork. Our goal is to break down the silos that make life harder for New Yorkers, to model the type of open communication and collaboration that strengthens our work, to double down on those things that do work, processes like our sprints, where we pull teams together from across the admin to target and tackle specific issues or backlogs that speak to what New Yorkers care most about. For example, we pulled a sprint team together for Jobs NYC, which is our multi-pronged effort to fill vacancies in city government and create opportunity in areas of high unemployment. And as a result, we cut our vacancy rate by nearly 30%. So we're going to expand on this model to keep delivering for hardworking New Yorkers. Now, meeting this moment in all of its complexity is a tall task, but luckily, I'm not shouldering this alone. Across our administration, my fellow deputy mayors, senior leaders in the admin, agency heads, and 300,000 public servants are focused on our mission Just look at what our deputy mayors have done together in the last 20 days since I entered the role. For example, with the amazing Deputy Mayor Maria Torres-Springer, I'm going to make you clap for each and every one of them. We are redesigning Fifth Avenue for the first time in 200 years. We're nearly doubling the sidewalks, beautifying the streets with hundreds of new trees, and creating a marquee boulevard that will be the envy of the world. Because of her endless compassion and expertise, the incredible Deputy Mayor Ann Williams-Isom's work has provided care to a population of migrants twice the size of Albany. Ann and her incredible team have built a first-in-the-nation center that has completed more than 72,000 applications for work authorization, temporary protected status, and asylum. Just think about that. 72,000 of our newest New Yorkers who are meaningfully closer to self-sufficiency and therefore the American dream. And thanks to the leadership of Deputy Mayor Ana Almanzar, we brought our labor partners and city agencies together to deliver a historic raise for our child care sector workers who are largely women of color. He's not here today, I don't think, but our newest Deputy Mayor, Chauncey Parker, brings nearly 40 years of law enforcement experience across all levels of government. And under his leadership, we will continue to make sure New Yorkers are safe, and in his words, are safe with the lightest touch possible, and bring every resource we have at our disposal to the table. And Deputy Mayor Fabian Levy, of course, is making sure, around for Fabian, for making sure that all New Yorkers can learn about what's happening in our city so they can access the benefits and services that their taxpayer dollars pay for and know how government is working to keep them safe. And I'd be remiss, of course, if I didn't mention the other incredible senior leaders at City Hall who are here today, the Mayor's Chief Advisor, Ingrid Lewis-Martin, our Director of Intergovernmental Affairs, Tiffany Raspberry, and our Chief Counsel, Allison Stoddard. These are the public servants who the Mayor has charged with leading our city. They are the ones dreaming about big ideas while sweating the little things that turn those ideas into reality. They are the public servants who are moving our city forward, and I'm proud to work alongside them every single day. And together with our city's 300,000 plus strong workforce, our job is to make sure we focus on the core issues that matter most to New Yorkers: protecting public safety, creating jobs, and making it more affordable to live and raise a family in this city. And that starts, of course, with what I see as the defining issue of our time, and that's housing. No surprise to anyone in this room. It's a crisis that impacts New Yorkers from every walk of life. Young people who come back home from college and can't afford the rent in the city that they grew up in. Older adults who are on the verge of being priced out of the city that they've called home for generations. Families who can no longer keep up with rising costs and are forced to look elsewhere to raise the next generation of visionaries, innovators, and leaders. Now, living in the greatest city on the globe should not be a luxury available to a few, but an opportunity within reach for millions. And we're already doing as much as we can to create quality, affordable housing for New Yorkers. We've invested a record $26 billion in housing capital over the course of the next 10 years, and accelerating $2 billion of that in the next 2. The team at HPD, as Stephen mentioned, building and preserving more affordable housing than ever before, with back-to-back record-setting years. And through the NYCHA Preservation Trust and PACT program, we've unlocked billions for long overdue repairs. Through the 5 rezonings which span the city, from the East Bronx, which passed the City Council earlier in the year, to the Atlantic Avenue plan in Brooklyn, which just entered the public review process, to Jamaica and Long Island City in Queens, and Midtown South in Manhattan, all 3 of which will come before the City Council before the end of next year. We are building the foundation for growth and opportunity in transit-rich areas. But here's the truth. With a 1.4% vacancy rate, that's not enough. We need to do more, and we can't do it alone. We need to build a little bit more housing in every neighborhood of this city, and that's exactly what our city is proposing with the City of Yes for Housing Opportunity, the most pro-housing zoning initiative in our city's history. Common sense solutions to meet the dire moment that we are in. Now, the problem might feel complex, but we know that the solution is pretty simple. We just have to build more. Through the City of Yes, as many as 109,000 new homes over the course of the next 15 years are within reach for our city. As many as 30,000 new jobs through this initiative are within reach for our city. As much as $2.1 billion in annual wages and $83 billion in economic impact are within reach for our city. And that's if we say yes. Now, last week, our admin and everyday New Yorkers, they made their voices heard at a city council hearing. The majority of those people, and in a recent poll, 80% of New Yorkers, they were clear and they were to the point. They said yes. Yes to more housing in our backyards. Yes to housing our homeless neighbors in need. Yes to housing our seniors and our young people. Yes to the City of Yes. But opponents as well made their voices heard. They're afraid of what a little more housing will do to their neighborhoods. They're afraid that low-density communities will lose their characteristic feel. But here is what they're missing. Those communities became the gems that they are because hardworking New Yorkers could afford to live there. And as our housing shortage gets worse and rents go up, those gems, in our opinion, get duller. They lose that energy that makes neighborhoods so special and such engines of opportunity. They risk becoming walled-off shadows of their former selves. But with just a little more housing, we believe we can bring the shine back to those gems in every neighborhood of our city. We're making sure that hardworking New Yorkers can continue to make a life for themselves across the city. That's what we gain by saying yes. We gain a city that works for families that work so hard to make it here. And our partners in the City Council, they're already joining us to say yes to that type of city. After all, we joined together to pass 2 other citywide zoning amendments, one making it easier to build green and the other getting rid of archaic business rules. We joined together to advance generational neighborhood plans like in the Bronx to bring affordable housing, public space, and more to those communities. And within weeks, as Stephen mentioned, the City Council has the opportunity to join us again and say yes to this proposal too. And I hope all of you will join us as well. Because there's an old Jewish teaching that I'm reminded of, and I say that not just because I'm actually on the road to convert, that I'm reminded of that if you save one person's life, you save an entire world. And in the grand scheme of things, 1 unit of housing may not seem like all that much, but to the CUNY grad making a starting salary at their first job, that 1 unit is the world. To the teacher who needs to commute 2 hours each way to save on rent, that 1 unit is the world. And to someone like me who had a roof over her head growing up only because of a Section 8 voucher, that 1 unit is the world. So if we say yes to more housing, I think we can change the world more than 100 times over, because that's the kind of city that we want to build. And that's the kind of city that New Yorkers deserve, right? A city with abundant housing, with family-sustaining jobs and world-class infrastructure. A city that is safe for everyone who lives here. a city where you can get ahead and live a long and healthy life no matter where you are from, what you believe in, or who you love. And a city where we take ambitious generational projects that people in other cities can only dream of. Now, make no mistake, we're well underway on these types of bold projects. We're creating a whole new neighborhood, for example, at Willets Point, with the largest 100% affordable housing project in 40 years in the city's first soccer-specific stadium. We're building the East Coast's largest offshore wind port at the South Brooklyn Marine Terminal. We're making New York City the center of the burgeoning life sciences industry at Spark Hips Bay. We're ensuring that the greatest city in the world is the greenest city in the world at our Climate Innovation Hub at the Brooklyn Army Terminal and at the New York Climate Exchange on Governor's Island. We're unlocking our blue highways with a 21st century modern maritime port in the 120-acre Brooklyn Marine Terminal in Red Hook. But we're not stopping there. We're also turning our attention to other neighborhoods in the city, including Gansevoort Square. So right in the Meatpacking District, this is the home of the High Line, iconic businesses, and the Whitney Museum of American Art, of course. Already a cultural gem in Manhattan, we know there's even more potential here. And so today, I'm really proud to share for the first time our new vision for Gansevoort Square. Now, the mayor announced through Executive Order 43 earlier in the year that we would review all city-owned land for housing sites and that we would advance this work rapidly. And I'm therefore pleased to share that we've reached an agreement with our partners at the Gansevoort Meat Market, who've made this district, of course, their home for over a century, that will allow them to find new facilities and better ways of serving their customers. And in the space that they leave behind, we're taking what we learn from our New New York panel and building a 24/7 live, work, play, and learn community. And that starts with housing. Specifically 600 units of desperately needed mixed-income housing in one of the most amenity-rich neighborhoods in the world. We believe that half of those units will be affordable, and this entire project will be done without any sort of public subsidy. Building on that, we're adding 11,000 square feet of new open space so that new residents, New Yorkers, and tourists from around the world will be able to enjoy it. And the best part is we still have tens of thousands of square feet of potential to work with so that incredible nearby partners like the Whitney and the High Line will have additional space for their operations and for expansion. And we're already taking the next steps to turn this vision into reality. Next month, we'll start engaging with New Yorkers to design the right RFP, which will release an award next year. And we'll do this, of course, in close partnership with local leaders, including Councilmember Botcher, who I know is here today. Now, this is the exact type of project New Yorkers want our city to continue to dream up and deliver. And to be clear, these projects are complicated and they're challenging, and it takes all of us in this room to get projects like this over the finish line. But in our administration, we run towards these types of projects and not away from them. And if you take one thing from these remarks, I hope you'll take away that our pledge, that my pledge, is to keep moving generational projects forward and also generating new ones. And I want to end by returning to what I shared at the start of my remarks, and that's the simple truth that being a public servant is my life's work. And I want to assure each and every one of you that I know that service, it's an action and not a title. I was called to service because I became a New Yorker during a time of great tragedy in our city, having moved here just a week before 9/11. And on that day, I found myself covered in dust walking over the Brooklyn Bridge alongside tens of thousands of my new neighbors. We all banded together, and at the time, was a desperate attempt to get to safety. But from that point on, we were bound through the work of rebuilding our city. And from that day, I personally decided to devote the rest of my career in service of New Yorkers. Because on that worst day in our city's history, we were at our best. We saw the spirit of New York in our unity of purpose. Our police, firefighters, emergency service workers, and everyday New Yorkers, they exemplified the highest ideals of our character. And this spirit of resiliency was instilled in me at a very young age. Many know that my parents immigrated to the U.S. from the Philippines a year before I was born. They worked multiple jobs, but still struggled too often to make ends meet. But they persevered. And I will never forget the day that my father, Manny, God rest his soul, cleared out all of the money that we had in our bank accounts, a big $400, and gave it to me before I went to a big East Coast college that I'd never even visited. He believed in me, and I've worked every day with the singular goal of not squandering those $400. And so my story, it's similar to so many New Yorkers, because as a city of immigrants, we all carry the echoes of the choices that led our families to leave their homes and to strive for a better future. And I've always believed that public service, it's an opportunity to ensure that that future is afforded to everyone in this city. Because ultimately, public service, it's an act of love. And when we do our best work, that love, it's unconditional. We don't ask what's in it for us. We serve because of the sheer privilege of doing so. We serve because we know no other way. And that is who you will have in the team leading the city. Public servants who know that our city's best days lie ahead. Public servants who understand the nuance and the complexity of this moment, but will continue to step up for New Yorkers, not despite of that complexity, but precisely because of it. And so let there be no doubt that we are on a mission, together with everyone in this room, driven by a deep clarity of purpose and an unwavering faith in our neighbors, to be worthy stewards of a city of which 8.5 million New Yorkers can be proud. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Did you say you're converting to Judaism?
Under my breath, so maybe
okay.
I can take it back.
Well, welcome to the tribe. Food's not bad. Guilt, not so good.
I was raised Catholic, so I know what you're talking about.
Let's start in the city of yes. It's ambitious. We need it. I think, obviously, you're at the council. Do you feel it will get, like, how do you handicap it? Do you feel like, is the council for pushing for things that you can live with? Do you see compromise here? And what does it look like in the process ahead?
From the beginning, we knew that we couldn't take anything for granted. I think we're starting off with a lot of strength. Number one is there is very little dispute that we're living in a housing crisis, right? So the challenge is broadly accepted. The crisis is broadly understood. And then we have in the Speaker of the City Council and so many members of the council, leaders who know that we have to do more. The Speaker herself, with her colleagues, we passed together a fair housing framework bill, right, just a year ago. And the underpinning of that is that every neighborhood had to do more to build housing. And so we are where we are today, just a few short weeks away from hopefully landing the plane. And there are two things that are important. Number one is we have to make sure that we don't water down the proposal to a point where it is unrecognizable and to the point where all we're doing is watering down our own tools to confront the housing crisis. The City of Yes for Housing Opportunity, a significant generational opportunity, it's not going to solve everything. But if we don't move forward with it with the type of energy and strength that's needed, then all we're doing is hurting ourselves. The second thing that I think is really important is that we want to work with our partners in the City Council to make sure that we're making the types of commitments that make sense given this proposal. We do this all the time. I have worked on and helped lead dozens of rezonings. And at the end of the day, in partnership with a local member, what you get isn't just the zoning change, but you get a vision and a set of commitments for a neighborhood that ensure that growth happens responsibly and with all that makes neighborhoods great, not just the housing, but parks and community centers, cultural organizations, et cetera. And so we're still on a path to making sure we're answering every question, tackling every concern, staying strong so it doesn't get watered down. But in the end, here's my hope. My hope is that routine politics don't bog this down. NIMBYism in the city has always had a little bit of a bipartisan disposition, right? And so we have to overcome that as a city, because I, for one, am kind of sick and tired of trafficking in the same statistics. The 1.4% rental vacancy rate, the 60,000 individuals, mostly women and children who sleep in shelters, the percentage of New Yorkers who are rent burdened. Like, it's enough. It's time to take action that will benefit not just this generation, but this city for generations to come.
You mentioned that public service is a reflection of love. We at ABNY feel that way. A lot of people have been in and out of public service, and we feel very strongly about supporting government. Can we help at this point on City of Yes? Is there anything our community can do that would be meaningful in this home stretch?
Absolutely. Well, many in the ABNY community have already been quite helpful, so thank you for that. This room, you all wear many hats, right? You wear hats as residents of your communities, local leaders, heads of organizations. You are employers. You are leaders in the cultural space. The list goes on. And when I travel through the city and speak with employers and organizations and labor leaders, the number one issue is always housing. And so my plea to you, the clarion call that we're making, in all the spaces that you are in, the private spaces, your speaking events, talking to the city council, take the opportunity to talk about why City of Yes for Housing Opportunity matters. And then, because if this passes, once it passes, our work is not done. There are so many other ways that we need to move forward as a city to tackle the crisis. Federal advocacy is incredibly important. And housing resources, it actually has bipartisan support, but it's been elusive to get over the finish line, both to finance more affordable housing and to make sure NYCHA has the resources that it needs. Our work in Albany always is important because of all of the tools we need to continue to get and to strengthen. And then when there's either a rezoning or a private application on the local level, we have to make sure that every voice is heard and not just the voices of the loud, well-housed few. The loud, well-housed few. Because the time for the loud, well-housed few to prevent others from that same opportunity, we need to be well past that time, and we can only do that because the people in this room, with all of the hats that you wear, with all of the juice that you have, that you are expending it on what I mentioned earlier, what I believe is the defining task of our generation of leaders in the public and private sectors.
number one issue is often housing. The number two issue, not far behind, is often public safety in our community. Mayor has been very clear about that as his priority. Recently, you've had a lot of changes atop the PD and in city halls at overseeing public safety. Can you talk about where you are now and what the priorities are, looks like going forward?
Of course, public safety from day one has been the mayor's number one priority and continues to be. We are encouraged by the fact that we have seen nine straight months of declining crime overall, and a drop year to year in the major offenses of more than 3%. And that happens because it has been and will continue to be an all-of-government approach. Number one, making sure we make smart, targeted investments. That type of work has led to more than 1,200 smoke shops being closed. It's led to thousands of guns, nearly 18,000 taken off the streets, tens of thousands of ghost cars addressed. And it also means that we have to do this work in a multi-agency, fully coordinated way. And we have in Deputy Mayor Chauncey Parker someone whose stock and trade is partnerships. And so our work through initiatives, for instance, like Community Link, which brings together the PD with so many other community partners to address specific hotspots in areas of concern, whether that is on 14th Street or Central Park or Times Square or Roosevelt Avenue, to our, and we're really proud of it, our work with PATH, Partnership Assistance for Transit Homelessness, where it's a co-response between the PD and medical professionals, where we have engaged more than 1,500 New Yorkers and given care to almost 500. This is the type of work that we mean when we say we need to keep every New Yorker safe, but with the lightest touch possible. It can be done. It has been our priority from day one. And here, too, there are ways you can help. So I'll mention every year on issues of public safety, we have a robust Albany agenda. We'll be sharing that, and we hope for your support so that we have the tools that we need to address a complicated set of issues with the type of urgency and compassion that's needed. The second is we have been so focused on upstream investments, whether that's our work with summer youth employment or Community Link or a whole list of workforce development initiatives. And your roles as employers, as philanthropists, really will help us ensure that we're making those investments at the right time, that we're doing it in an enduring way, and that we're focused on prevention and opportunity for our young people in this city before they are caught in what has been for too many just a tragic cycle of struggle, and obviously it leads to negative consequences for our city. And so I expect the next ABNY Power Breakfast to be Mr. Chauncey Parker. Does that make sense? He's fantastic.
Happy to have him. We've heard a lot from our community. People care a lot about the subways and not just investment in the subways, but you mentioned homelessness on the subways and mental health, with both like a desire to have an approach that's compassionate to those who are mentally ill, and well as take people, because it is scary to be on the subway with your family in a car. And I think when something happens, so it's a big importance to our community if we can help you. And I think I would say we'd love to see a focus on that, because we kind of feel if the subways don't work, the place doesn't work. And so anyway, so please call on us for that. You've been across 3 different mayors. I guess just a question. Can you talk a bit about like what you've learned that you bring to your management style now as first deputy mayor, and how different it's been a bit over the course of those 3?
Each administration has been different because the city has faced varying challenges in each of those tours of duty. But there are a few things that are constant that I'm particularly proud of. Number one is that, sometimes the characters change, but in each administration you have a 300,000 plus workforce across the agencies who are so committed to improving the lives of New Yorkers on a day-to-day basis. And so what do they need to see to keep doing that work? They need to see that their leaders support them, that we're addressing resource issues, that there's a positive vision for where the city is going. And people ask me all the time, are you getting agency heads or others who are worried or thinking about leaving? And the answer is actually quite the opposite. I have the fortune of working with agency heads in the housing and economic development portfolio. And the other thing that happens all the time is the other deputy mayors are like, no, I have the best team, but I have the mic. So the housing and economic development portfolio has amazing agency heads, and they ask, what can we do right now? And so that's the spirit of public service that has been consistent. Two other things have been key, I think, to the work that I've been so fortunate to be a part of. One is that, and I really believe this, that in government, Newton's first law, bear with me, Newton's first law of motion. Does anyone know what it is? Leiden might know. That an object set in motion stays in motion. It doesn't apply. Doesn't apply in government. Applies everywhere else in the universe, but not in government. Because we have to keep pushing. We can't take anything for granted. Projects die 5 times before they actually come to life. Just because you have a blueprint doesn't mean it's going to get implemented. And so much of what we have done together is make sure that good ideas, a glossy brochure, turns into stuff and things that New Yorkers appreciate and that improve their lives. And then, the last thing that I'll say is it's also easy in government to get paralyzed by these awesome challenges, climate change, the housing crisis, a global pandemic. But here's what I have found works on a day-to-day basis. And it's a see problem, solve problem type of mentality. That is the way that my colleagues and I work on issues every day in order to not get overwhelmed by the scale and enormity of the challenges we face, and to make sure we keep moving our city forward. And, that's certainly the type of culture that the mayor has embraced and supported, and we hope to continue to move in that way in the days and months ahead.
Can you talk a little bit about your working relationship with the mayor and how it's been in your previous role and it is in this role?
I've enjoyed a really productive and supportive relationship with Mayor Adams. I've found that he is so incredibly open to ideas and to discussion and to pushing the envelope on issues that are hard. Let's just talk about housing. Everywhere we go, there are a number of people who say, let's build more housing, but a whole lot of people who say, can you just not do it here? Or you're you're destroying something in order to create more housing. And the same is true when we think about what it means to stand up shelter space, right? For the 60,000 New Yorkers, mostly women and children, who need shelter. And in those moments, I feel like I have seen the best in Mayor Eric Adams, because he is so strong and resolute about the need to address this issue. And that takes a particular type of courage. And so I feel really fortunate. And, again, I'll go back to, I know this is a complex time, but the job is in some ways quite simple. Those are the 3 things that I mentioned in my speech that he tasked me with, which is to make sure that we are continuing with the effective functioning of government, we keep moving generational projects forward, and that we care for the 300,000 people who are, let's be honest, the ones who are really doing the work on a day-to-day basis. And so I'm just going to, I will stay faithful to that so that he does not regret appointing me to this position.
You've inherited OMB. So can I ask how you look at going into the budget for the coming years? Is it austerity? Will we have solid revenue? What does the picture look like?
What's interesting? Here's the other thing I've learned in government. People get, individual leaders, individual people, they get too much credit and blame for what happens, right? And so I know the last budget cycle, the last year was difficult. We were facing difficult budget issues. So the work ahead is to not stick our heads in the sand about headwinds that we have to face, and at the same time, make sure that we are continuing to make the types of investments that protect New Yorkers, that improve livability, and that improve affordability. And maybe it's because I'm a pathological optimist, I believe we can do both. We can do both. Be good fiscal stewards, be honest about the budget situation, and move our city forward with the proof of that being in how we invest your tax dollars.
I'll ask a final question. We have a federal election ahead. There are really two very different paths, it seems, from a federal government. Do you, depending upon one way or the other, do you think we govern the city differently versus one administration in D.C. versus another? Or do you think kind of course is the course?
We have to be prepared for every scenario. There are the scenarios that we might prefer, others that we might not prefer. I'm not going to guess what people in this room might prefer, but our job in government isn't to sit around and speculate or wring our hands or be political pundits. Our job is to make sure that we are prepared for every scenario, and those at least need to happen on 3 lanes. Number one is to make sure that we understand implications, good or bad, of any change or continuation to important federal revenue streams to our city, right? And so what does it mean to protect investments, to ensure that those funds keep flowing? Number two, to make sure we're aware of implications, good, bad, or in the middle, to policy issues that we care so much about as New Yorkers and we are the epicenter of, whether those are issues related to reproductive rights, issues related to immigration, and many more. And then third, we have to make sure that we are prepared as a city, which we have been, for operational issues. For example, and we have already seen this, so there's an election coming up, but if we're honest, we know that we've been in a period of deep political stalemate and social fragmentation, and that manifests itself in protests. And so incidents of political violence, whether they are growing, whether they are in different pockets, whether they're more of what we've been used to seeing, we have to make sure we are prepared. And thanks to our colleagues at the NYPD, I want to assure you that we are. So preparedness for what's to come, that's the work of public servants and government technocrats. I've never been so happy to be called a technocrat before. Isn't that weird? It's weird. I didn't grow up thinking, you know what I want to be? I want to be a boring technocrat. But that's our work. It's well underway, and it's what New Yorkers need and deserve. And in many ways, however, it's not dissimilar from what we have been doing in preparation for many different crises, natural and man-made.
Maria, thank you for your love of public service. Thank you for being with us here today. And thank you all for coming.